Hello, I'm Kelbrew, and today I'm going to go over Nilah, and Nilah's kit, my thoughts on it. I want to get my thoughts out there, so let's get started. The Star Guardian event starts on July 14th. That's going to include Nilah releasing onto the Rift, the Star Guardian Pass, Star Guardian event. It's going to be some kind of a visual novel as they've done in big events in the past, and then they'll be releasing the skins as well. There's 2 batches of Star Guardian skins. This batch is going to be Echo, Kaisa, Nilah, Sona, Fiddlesticks, and a Prestige Echo skin. There's a lot that are going to be coming through. It's the same as the Sentinels event. It's the same as Spirit Blossom, where they're going to be releasing 2 batches of skins and have that correlate with the event. So let's talk about Nilah. Her passive is that she amplifies healing and shielding of ally abilities. Allies that heal or shield her will gain a bonus shield for themselves. I believe it's 10% healing and 20% shielding. The last time I played on the PvE, which was about a week and a half ago, so I can't really speak for the numbers, but last time it was 10% healing, 20% shielding. Any heals or shields on Nilah that were casted on Nilah gained that bonus, and any healer shields that were cast on Nilah gave that bonus value back to the caster. And then the opposite's true. If the caster heals or shields themselves and Nilah's close by, she gains 10% of the healing, 20% of the shielding. What's really interesting is they show this a little bit in the Lulu clip that's going to repeat right here. It bounces. So Lulu will shield herself, that shield will shield Nilah, Nilah's shield will shield Lulu. After doing some testing, we found that item shielding does not proc her passive. We found that ability shielding does. We found that regeneration-based abilities don't proc it. So we're talking like Dr. Mundo's ultimate, Singed's ultimate does not apply the healing. Anything that applies direct healing will apply Nilah's passive. Anything that applies regeneration-based healing will not. Lifesteal also doesn't bounce. That's important for one of her later abilities. Direct shielding, I believe, does. There's a couple more tests that I would have to do regarding shields that can be applied just to yourself. For example, like a Diana shield. I was not able to test that. We're going to find that. In my opinion, I think it allows Nilah to be both mid lane and bottom lane, allowing the healing and shielding of allies to affect her and vice versa. It's nice to know that she's not pigeonholed into the bottom lane. That has happened a few times with champions in the past. In my opinion, pigeonholing a champion into a specific lane has never felt good, let alone been healthy for the champion themselves. Nilah's second passive, because every champion has to have 2 passives since Yasuo. If Nilah last hits an enemy minion, she and her nearest ally champion will gain the normal amount of shared experience plus half the amount of experience that would have been lost due to sharing. It's about a 20% increase in experience gain. After doing the math, it's somewhere in that range. It's like 15 to 20% increased. It's certainly not as much as old Mordekaiser's was. It's certainly not as much as some other old experience share abilities have been, but it's a lot. This will lend a Nilah lane to be to level up faster. It will lend a Nilah lane to get level 6 faster and get their power spikes much faster. I want to talk about why I feel that's strong and why I feel that's not abrasively strong. I feel that it's strong. I fully agree that it's strong. Anytime that you can give a stat check numerical advantage just by existing is going to be strong. Even more so when it's an external stat like experience or gold. Just look at how strong Pyke has been over the few years of his release. Being able to give gold to the rest of his team is important. The reason why I think it's not over the top is because Nilah, having played her, having kind of looked at her, most of her power spikes are in itemization and not in level. You see there's a lot of marksmen, there's a lot of ADCs that see their power spikes in level and in itemization. Samira comes to mind. Samira is kind of not a champion until level 6. And so when you look at champions that really gain their power spike through level and itemization, and then you look at someone like Nilah who gains it primarily through itemization, it becomes to matter a lot less when Nilah's ahead in experience. And so for me, that's good. That said, supports do gain a huge advantage from level over itemization. And so that's a pretty big concern. Increasing experience gains for supports by 10 to 20% is pretty significant. I think that lends Nilah to have a non-roaming support or a mid-camping jungle, assuming you play her mid. Let's talk about her Q. Nilah's Q is Formless Blade. You activate it to do damage in the line, damaging all enemies hit. Hitting an enemy will increase her attack range, attack speed, and make her attacks cleave in a cone for additional damage. It's strong. It's a really good tool. The cooldown doesn't increase as you level up. It stays at 4 seconds, and the duration of the buff stays at 4 seconds. So if you stay in combat and you stay consistent with it, Nilah will always be doing the cleave damage. What's important to know is that the cleave damage isn't actually all that strong. The fact that it's AoE damage is really what makes it powerful. It's not necessarily stronger than her normal auto attacks, but the cleave is powerful and the attack range powerful. You can see it. She's a melee champion with very high attack range. And it still qualifies as melee, and that's important, which means she gets additional buffs from Conqueror, she gets additional buffs from Lethal Tempo, items like Blade of the Ruined King. Anything that is stronger for melee champions, she gets a pretty significant benefit from. Her passive here is that her attacks and ability damage ignores some armor and heal Nilah for part of the damage dealt. Scales with crit chance and converts excess damage to a shield. So she has an overheal. It scales with crit chance. I believe it's 15% of her crit chance goes to armor negation, and 33% goes to the lifesteal. It might be the other way around, but it's one of the two. It's a third of her crit chance for one and 15% of her crit chance for another. If I was going to take anything away from this ability to make it more balanced, I would remove the armor, I'd remove the armor pen. I think the healing's important for her as a melee ADC, and I think that the fact that the healing qualifies as lifesteal and it doesn't spread to allies also makes it much more manageable. If that healing were to apply her passive, it'd be much scarier. Let's talk about her W. This is one of her more controversial abilities. Most of Nilah's controversial, let's be honest. Her W is Jubilant Veil. She shrouds herself in a Jubilant Veil. Okay. And briefly gains bonus move speed, takes reduced magic damage, and dodges all basic attacks. It's Counter-Strike without the stun. The difference is that rather than taking reduced area damage, she just takes reduced magic damage. And then, like I said, dodges all incoming basic attacks. It lasts about 2.25 seconds. And if she touches an ally, they get the same shield, but are protected for about 1.5 seconds, so it's a much shorter time frame. Couple things that are important to note. Even at max level, it's over a 20-second cooldown. This is a very expensive defensive tool. It's a lot like Samira's W, where it's a powerful tool, but it's also very expensive cooldown-wise. I think it's very strong, but I don't think that it is as strong as people think it is. I think it's more akin to Akshan's Revive, where situationally it'll feel ridiculous, but most of the time people will forget that it's a problem. Nilah's E is one that I feel very strongly about. Surprisingly enough, it's kind of an interesting ability to feel strongly about. It's your generic, short-range, 80 carry movement ability. You dash through a target unit, you deal damage along the way, and you travel a fixed distance. Similar to Yasuo's and Samira's, you can activate your Q while you dash to get a buffed Q. Different from Yasuo's and Samira's is that it can store 2 charges as opposed to just 1. Samira gets the reset on takedown, Yasuo has the per unit cooldown, Nilah has double stacks, has two charges. I think that's fine. The real concern that I have here is that every champion who has had one of these dashes, Fizz at one time, Yasuo at one time, and Samira most recently, has had the ability to dash to allies. And every time that's been removed because it's been way too strong. Nilah can dash to allies with this. I think that's a problem, and I think it needs to be removed. Because giving Nilah 2 dashes, 2 charges, and giving her the ability to attack minions, or to attack allies with it, allows you to dash into a turret range, throw your burst, and dash out. And that was one of the big concerns with Samira, was that Samira would dash in, get a takedown, have the reset, and dash back out on her support, and that was a problem. Yasuo just, it was only in PvE for a very short amount of time, but Yasuo could do it, and it was terrible. Fizz as well for a little bit of time could do it. is just not good. I think that there is a difference between these abilities and, say, Jax's Jump Strike or Katarina's Shunpo. And the difference is the champion and the rest of the champion has going for them. I think you need to remove that from Nilah's kit. I think it's a little bit too strong. That said, I do like champions that have dashes. Let's talk about her R. Apotheosis. That's a fun word. It basically means becoming a god. That's what the phrase apotheosis means, or the word. She deals damage in an area around her for about a second, and when it finishes, she pulls everyone inside. Pretty generic. It's like a Diana R. The kicker here is that she heals herself for about, I think it's 30% of the damage she deals. It's based on her crit chance again, but she heals for part of the damage dealt. She converts the shield, excess healing into a shield, and she grants the shield or the healing to her nearby allies, which does proc her passive. So it does that double bounce where she heals, she sends the heal to her ally heals, which by extension heals herself. Because it's 10%, it flattens out really quickly. That's how percentages work. But even still, I don't think her R is the most egregious part of her kit. Like I said, where she scales more with itemization than she scales with levels, her R kind of necessarily has to be weaker than the rest of her kit. I feel that it is a strong ultimate, but I feel that with the low area of effect and the fact that she has to be in danger when that happens, kind of evens out a lot of its power. That's just me. It's also worth noting that I absolutely love champions like this. I will be playing Nilah constantly. I think that she's a very fun champion, and so it's not. I'm probably not the best authority to speak for it, but that's a little bit about Nilah, and yeah, bye.